In today's variations video, we are going to explore the sleeping swan, also known as pigeon pose. Welcome to the Flower Empowered. Now, this is probably the most difficult pose that we cover in the Relax Your Pelvic Floor video. And this, I've had more requests for alternatives to this pose from subscribers than for any other pose in the video. So if you don't have the flexibility in your hips to be able to get into the full expression of the pose, I'm going to offer you today some alternatives. So firstly, we should look to see what is needed. Maybe we look first at the pose itself. So if we were to come into the pose, we could come from an all fours position and we would take our knee close to the hand and the heel close to the opposite hip. We would walk the leg down. So now we are all the way here into like a hip flexion and the knee is fully flexed in this position. And we would just rest the head down and we're in the full expression of the pose. So you can see here that there needs to be a lot of expansion on this side and also on the hip on the opposite side. So from the front, we could look at the legs. So if we seal the knee here and then take the leg to here, this is where the leg sits when we're lying on the floor. And from this position, we're getting a deep stretch here on a lot of these little muscles that run from the side of the pelvic floor across to the greater trochanter. So some of the pelvic floor muscles, the obturator internus and also the piriformis, not a pelvic floor muscle but participates with the pelvic floor, they will run across here and attach onto the leg on the outside, the greater trochanter. So in order for you to be able to stretch those, you need to have good flexibility. Now, with this pose, you can see that I had the leg at this angle. It is also possible to take the leg up so that it's more at a not quite 90, but maybe like 45-degree angle. And this is a much deeper stretch. So if you can hold your leg close to your chest like this, if this is comfortable, then you can also take the pose with that angle. But usually if we're doing this, because the knee is a little more open, we would need to have a flexed foot. So I only like to practice the pigeon with the knee closed. Now, if you can't bring your leg here in a sitting position, then it's going to be difficult for you to do it on the floor. So, where I like to start with this as the first alternative, so the most gentle version of this would be just lying on your back. Take the knee into the chest, seal the knee so everything is nice and safe, and then just bring the leg with the knee sealed around. So we're rotating at the hip. So you see, we're not yanking the knee in any way. The knee is all closed and safe. We're moving from the hip here, and we're just externally rotating the hip to bring the leg onto the foot onto the opposite leg. And this is, just move down a little, this is the very mildest variation that you can take instead of the pigeon pose. So in this position, we are getting a little bit into these muscles, not so much, just a little. So this is the first expression. So in this, we need to relax the foot. This is a yin position. So it's more the ankle that's resting on the leg. We're relaxing the foot, so it's not flexed, it's not an active pose, we're just relaxing the foot. And you can just place your two hands here just to make sure that the leg isn't falling onto your body. So you're just gently pressing with the hands and really, as much as possible, relaxing the legs. So this is the first variation. Now, if here you feel really comfortable and you're not feeling any stretch around here, then we can go to the next expression. So for that, we would use a bolster. So I'll just move this little blanket out of the way and I will take the bolster. I'll just place it just in front of the body and then we're going to come down and instead of having the feet on the floor, I'm going to put my feet up on the bolster. I'm going to seal the knee and again I'm going to rotate from the hip, place the leg. So I have now the legs a little bit closer to the body. So the closer that they come, the deeper the stretch. So I'm just going to start here. I'm going to rest here, relax the leg, relax the foot, everything's soft. It's the ankle that's resting on the leg here, not the foot. If the foot rests on the leg, then there's a possibility that you might yank the ankle a wee bit, and we don't want to do that. So it is the ankle resting on the legs. So you can just take the position here and just use your hands, a little bit of activity in the hands to make sure that the leg can rest there. So it's a little bit propped. Now, if here you feel, okay, that's really tight, this is your position. You don't need to go any deeper. Now, from here, if you feel like, nah, I'm not really stretching, I don't really feel like I'm getting a stretch of the piriformis or the obturator internus here, there's no tension coming along the bottom of the backside, then you can go a little bit deeper. And to go deeper, we'll just take both hands and we'll just put them underneath the knee, so just around the hamstrings, and then you can use the elbow on this opposite arm just as a little prop for that leg. And here again, you want to let the legs go. So we're not holding the legs up actively, we're relaxing the legs. So the arms have to be active here, but the legs are relaxed. So, and you would just let everything be soft. You'll notice when I let everything be soft, it all wants to go in that direction. If that is happening and you feel like you're falling to the side a little, you can put a little blanket to the side, and that will just help you kind of relax into a more neutral position. So allow you to take a little bit of balance. Now here, if you feel, no, I'm not really there, I could go a little deeper into this, then you have the option of taking the knees around the outside of the leg. Now this is deeper. You will feel, maybe you'll feel it here. Now maybe you still don't feel it here, but here again, hands are active, legs are relaxed. It's still the ankle, so just above the ankle that's resting. It's not the foot. The foot is soft. You see, I'm not flexing, I'm just relaxing the foot. And this is the next expression. So this is like another step up in difficulty. So you can just relax here, nice and soft. And if you still feel like, no, this is too easy for me, I don't really feel a stretch, and you want to go a little deeper, but you're still not ready for the full expression of the pose, then we're going to use the wall. So for that, we will come around. Basically, you can come close to the wall first, take the bum nice and close, and then we'll come around, bring the feet up onto the wall. So you can see here that this is going to be a much deeper expression of the pose. Now, if it's too close here, when you bring the foot onto the leg, if this is too much, you can move the body back just a little and make it a little more shallow. So you can just be here. And this is quite nice and supported. And the closer you get to the wall, the closer your legs come to your body. And if you can be here, and if you're comfortable here, you can use the hands if you want to prop the leg. But again, it's the ankle that's here. This is nice and soft. We're not flexing, we're just relaxing. And we're just not yanking on the knee. Remember, the movement was coming from the hip, not from the knee. And we're just going to let ourselves be here. So here you should feel also the stretch along the backside. And if you feel that you're comfortable there, and if you feel like, okay, your body has adjusted and gotten used to that type of a stretch, then you can come back around and try to get the stretch on the other side. Now, the thing about those alternatives is that they don't at all do the hip extension. So when we take the pigeon pose, on one side we're flexing at the hip and rotating, also externally rotating, but on the other side we're also doing a hip extension. So you miss out on the hip extension when you try those variations. So once you feel like you have the openness to be able to try a version where you're lying forward, then you can actually bring your hip extension into it. So when you start, instead of going all the way to the full expression, we're going to also take a little bit of a step back here. So the first thing that we'll do is adjust our bolster, because we are going to use the bolster as a support. And when we go to take the leg into the position, so from all fours, what we want to do is actually bring this little folded blanket or a pillow, something a little bit supportive, just along the side. And you can place your hands like as though you're in all fours. Take the knee forward like you would have. And instead of sitting all the way to the floor, you're going to sit onto that blanket. So you can see now that I'm not actually getting as deep because I have lifted the floor using the blanket. You can use a bolster here as well, or a pillow, something that elevates the hips a little bit. But of course, if you're elevating on this side, you should also counterbalance with a little elevation on the other side. So in this case, we can just use the bolster and bring it up nice and close on the other side and just allow yourself to relax here. So this allows you to get into a nice position. Just make sure I'm not covering the mic. It allows you to get into a nice comfortable position where you are getting a little extension on that, where the outstretched leg is. So you're getting a little deeper into your hip extension on the straight leg, as well as getting into the hips on the other side. Now, if you're going to do this, when you're working here, it's very good to take yourself up and to work on lengthening. So after you take the pose, work on lengthening. You'll feel the stretch on the front of the hip on this side. So nice deep stretch on the front of that hip. Just reach up with the rib cage. Press your backside, your sitting bone here, down towards that blanket. And lift the rib cage away from the hips so that you don't pinch in the low back. You want to create space in the low back by lifting the rib cage up away from the hips. Beautiful. And always to come out of this position, make sure your hands are flat, turn out the back toe, lift up that back knee and press into the hands to take yourself back into a little child's pose, just to come out of the position. And then of course we can work our way down. We can use bolsters, we can use blankets, but inevitably what we want to do is come to the stage where we can just bring the leg forward, bring the other leg back, walk back as much as is comfortable for you so that your hip on this side, your seating bone is reaching the floor, you're nice and extended on the opposite side, and then you're just going to allow yourself to come down either onto your hand pillow or all the way onto the floor and just relax. And that is it for our pigeon. So we want to try to find where your body is. It's so important to listen to your body. Your body is going to tell you what variation is right for you. You should feel the stretch along the backside around here. And if in the full expression, you'll feel an openness on the opposite hip. And of course, you should do this. I've just done one side for the purpose of demonstration, but you should do both sides because by doing both sides, you maintain balance in the body. And this is such an effective stretch. It gets all the way in to the pelvic floor. It gets in and it gives a little bit of a stretch. You're kind of countering because you're doing opposing sides. You're doing something different with each side and it's kind of taking everything and giving it a nice little ring. And the more you can relax in this position, the better. So I hope that you find a variation that is right for you. If you have questions, just pop them in the comment box below. And remember to talk about pelvic floor dysfunction. If we talk about these things, we can break the taboo and break the silence for those who are suffering. Together, we can and will make a difference.